But another bit of congratulations is Catapult's had just an incredible run. So obviously listeners to the show would have been going very large into Catapult 18 months ago.
We don't give investment advice.
But they would have just listening to you gone large and would have done incredibly well. And I thought it might be worth asking, you guys have gone from a 50-cent stock to a $5 stock now. So it's an unbelievable run. How has that changed? Obviously, you're executive chairman of this business. It's now a glamour stock, front page of the Financial Review last week. How has this changed your day-to-day or month-to-month at Catapult?
I think something like 2 or 2.5 years ago, we were 60 cents.
And what was that market cap?
I think 150 or 200 mil, and it's probably
less than your jet.
I don't know how to respond to these comments. I just laugh and on the inside cry. Let me tell you what I think is interesting about this, because being a public company means you make your mistakes in the public eye. And every 6 months, if you've done something wrong, you get flogged by investors, and they flog you hard and publicly and privately. And so it's been interesting. I would say, it looks like the last 6 months has been great, and it has been.
Last sort of 18 months,
yeah, but really this started after the end of COVID.
Yeah.
Because, we went into COVID with a new CEO, and which is Will, and he was the Chief Revenue Officer of Audible.
Yep.
And really this story starts with quality of people. And as I've gotten older and been in business for longer, what I've started to understand, or what I think I now do understand, is you cannot create a great business without great people.
Absolutely.
And largely people are the driver of the quality of outcome of a business. And I think we really stretched to get a CEO.
Especially in certain types of businesses, like more so than other, every business, yes, but more so when you're running a business really based on IP,
or definitely
much more. Right?
IP growth businesses, it's just about people.
Yeah.
People think, generally like someone might look at an IP business and say it's about the quality of IP. Definitely you need product market fit. But actually great people will figure out product market fit.
Talent goes up and down the escalators, elevators every day.
That's right. That's right. And so I think we made this huge effort. We stretched on the CEO. Like Will had been the Chief Revenue Officer of Audible, dealt with Bezos, like really one-on-one.
Wow.
Like this was a stretch for us.
And you hired him personally, obviously, as exec chair.
That's right.
Did the founders have a lot to do with that hire? Or you
the founders and the board had a lot to do. We hired, I can give a plug to a guy called Kevin Griffiths at True Search, who managed to find him. It was just this mutual persuasion of me persuading Will that he could really do something dramatic in this business, and him persuading us to embrace the ambition that he had for the business, which I did have, right?
Yeah. Is Sean on the board?
Sean and Igor are both on the board.
Okay.
Yeah. I went through a period where people tried to pressure me.
And what's their stakes in the business at the moment?
Let's say, I reckon collectively the three of us own 20%. Okay. Igor's the biggest one.
Yep.
Igor, Sean, me.
Yep.
I was pressured over the years because, executive chairs are not very popular on the ASX. Yep. Proxies suggest voting against exec chairs just as I think really universally, And, people said you shouldn't have two founders on the board, and I really pushed back against that. And I said the value that founders bring is incredible, and you if you're not in the business and part of it, you don't understand that value necessarily.
I think like anything, it can be great and it cannot be great. I think the founders extremely well, and they're extremely high quality people as well. And I think investors, they know the founder, but they're choosing to buy into effectively a founder-led. You were not technically a founder, but you're kind of a founder.
Yeah, I got there pretty early, right?
They're kind of buying into a founder-led business, and some people love that, some people don't. And if you don't buy the shares.
So first it was all about people, and then Will brought a very strong team. And, one of the really interesting things is of the senior management, two of the key leaders both came via acquisitions. They were running the business. One was a founder who, is independently very wealthy, and one was running a business that we acquired. For me, I don't understand this rationale where companies acquire businesses and then they let the founders run off into the distance. Yeah. And for us, making the founders feel important and special and giving them key roles is a really fundamental part of buying a business.
There's a name for it.
Yeah, well, but Acquihire is more, you're not really buying a business, you're just buying the people. Yeah. Here we bought really strong businesses, right? Yeah. Big, strong businesses, but we were able to retain the people in key roles. So I think one thing is what is happening today is the benefit of a great journey that began when Will became CEO and we started building this new team.
Yeah.
The other thing to say is I think we didn't really understand what the narrative of the business was
So it's that storytelling point that we talked about last week.
And I think we didn't understand it externally and we didn't understand it internally. And one thing I've learned is if investors are criticizing you, it's not because they're morons. Like they do see stuff that's going on that you might be blind to. And when you're an ASX listed company, investors, that's your other customer base.
Totally.
You can't just hate on them.
Yeah.
And so we listened to them. And what we understood is that we needed to do two linked things. One is we needed to tell a better story of where the leverage in the business was and the scalability. And we turned that story into a story of what percentage of each year's incremental revenue do we keep as profits?
Yeah. You're like 25%, right?
Well, this year was 65%.
Oh, 65%?
Yeah, this year. And so we kept 2/3 of every extra dollar as profit.
Yeah.
And so
that's what's huge operational leverage you have.
That's right. And so that was an important narrative to share. And the other part of that was actually saying we do need to deliver cash. Like we should transition to a business that makes money and actually deliver results.
You're spinning off how much cash now?
This year, we're talking US dollars, but this year it was kind of like 8.5 mil and like it doubled year on year. And like it's been better than what people had understood it was going to be. And so really, I think ultimately you have to deliver. I don't like businesses that promise and don't deliver and it's smoke and mirrors. But I think, there's kind of a lesson to me in the journey that we've been on, which has been public. There's a lesson for all growth businesses, which is focus your number one energy on the quality of team that you build.
100%.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And like, you cannot have people in that team that are not amazing, especially in leadership. Got to get rid of them and replace them.
Yeah.
And number two is,
couldn't agree more, by the way, on that.
and the reason you agree is because you've been through the journey, right?
Exactly. We were private, but we lived it as well.
You get it, right? And the other thing is that there needs to be an internal and external narrative that is honest and makes sense and drives the business. And for us, it was about, we're linked to the growth in professional sports, which is crazy, right? The Celtics just got bought for whatever it was, $8 billion, right? So like there's a lot of money pouring into the category. There's a lot of opportunity to grow, but fundamentally we're at a point where the cost base is largely baked in and now it should start raining profitability in the business. The last thing I'll say is we really embraced Rule of 30. Rule of 40, sorry. I was thinking about the next part of the story. We really embraced Rule of 40 and in 2 years we went from 3 to 31.
Wow.
And there are not many businesses at 31 on Rule of 40.
Yeah.
And so
by the way, I'm starting calculating our Rule of 40 now because of you.
I think it's really a really good measure.
You hit 40 recently.
You hit 40? Well, I think
more profitability than growth, but yeah.
Well, that's tremendous.
Yeah.
Like you should feel that's incredible and go on IPO. And but I really think it's relevant to almost every business because what it's saying is, and then we can be a bit nuanced and say, so basically it's adding mostly it's adding your revenue growth percentage to your free cash / profitability percentage, not your EBITDA percentage as a tech business because you don't want to have a whole lot of capitalized R&D. We use something called management EBITDA, which is putting real R&D spend on people into the cost base.
Okay.
Yep, that's what we use to be a really honest number.
Yeah, that's very honest.
And so I think it's a lovely metric to use to get the balance between growth and profitability. And, the ratio might differ not 1-to-1 when you're a tech company, but I think it's amazing that you're 40.
Yep.
You should make a bigger fuss about that.
We're private, so it's a bit different.
Doesn't matter. You've got shareholders and also maybe you won't be private forever. Hard to imagine you as a public company CEO.
It's that was an amazing effort. Congratulations to you and the team,
you
and Will and Igor
and Sean and Igor, exactly, and the team.
Great guys.
I mean, really, people say it's a team effort, and like they just say that because they don't want to take all the credit. But really, like the amount of credit I take is relatively minimal. Like it is. No good results are delivered without a great team delivering, and like it's not me that runs that business day to day.
I think it required the founders to start it, but it was a $10 million business when you came in. It's now a $1.3 billion business, and obviously Will's been great as part of that. So it's clear the four of you have found that great alchemy and working together.
And we've got to once you start saying nice things about people, it's hard to know where to stop. But I will say, there are lots of boards of public companies where I know some directors where the boards are not really very involved in the business. Catapult's board is very involved in the business. Like the board is very important in the growth of the business.
It's not great when you've got a terrible board.
Yeah, it's great when you've got a well, you can, as you're the chairman, you get to pick your board, right? Sure.